Here's a scenario that I don't think we've really thought of as Christians. I mean, we could already think of applications where you have maybe deep fakes of Pope Francis or a YouTuber or something like that, and that influences people's mind. That's pretty obvious. What about this though? Um, the general public, like the secular world, let's say in the United States, who is a figure that they love to promote in order to combat Christianity? We might say that there's several figures, but I would say one of them is Bart Ehrman. They love to use Bart Ehrman to undermine Christianity, to undermine the veracity of the text of the New Testament, for instance. They'll use him because he's a scholar in textual criticism. So they love to prop him up as somebody who can undermine the Christian message. And he's only one example. There are others. He's just an individual. And maybe some of these others, they're just individuals. And so they're pretty limited in their knowledge. Now, artificial intelligence can withhold or can retain way more information and access more information way quicker than a human can. Already, whenever I've looked at Chat GPT and asked it theological questions, I can see it offering some pretty strong arguments. Now, I look at it and I say, but it needs to consider this, it needs to consider that. And so me as just an individual, I can generally refute what it's saying if it's trying to use an apologetic against something false. Um, but I could see it pretty quickly in just a year or so. Getting to the point that it would be pretty tough to refute it. You would have to do a lot of work as just an individual. Can you imagine a time where artificial intelligence has accumulated enough information about philosophy, or let's say textual criticism, the study of the transmission of the text of the New Testament, and it's analyzed all kinds of manuscripts out there? Could you imagine what kind of arguments it could present against a case that the New Testament, for instance, goes back to the apostles, and it's accessed this and that manuscript, and maybe it's withholding information or it's biased, it's giving you one side of the story but not another? It would be nearly impossible for any one human to respond to that AI, because that one human would have to be familiar with all of these manuscripts, and that's going to be nearly impossible to consider as just one individual. So you would have a scenario where you could see, I could envision secular society training it in textual criticism, philosophy, theology, church history, secular history, training it with so much information, and then selectively, being very biased, selectively presenting one thing and one side of the story without kind of giving you the other side of the story, or even giving you something false. That's also conceivable. But even if it's not telling you something false, I could see the AI being trained to say, but say only this if it's in favor of refuting Christianity. But don't say that. Don't present anything that is going to be in favor of Christianity. I could see secular society, or at least a group of people who have control over AI, who are biased against Christianity. I could see them using AI to influence the public mind and use it to say, here's why the New Testament doesn't go back to the apostles, or why Christianity is philosophically untenable, or it's historically untenable, or it's this, or it's that. And no one Christian apologist or theologian would be able to respond to what the AI is saying. So much so that this could influence public opinion so severely that you would have to have an entire team of theologians and apologists just to respond to one argument that AI is making. And it can make arguments nonstop. You tell it to write a poem, it'll write one for you right then and there. And you say, write another one, it'll do it right then and there. Could you imagine how much misinformation or skewed arguments it could present in just 1 hour? And it may take an entire team of theologians and apologists just to respond to one argument that it made in 1 hour out of maybe 1,000 arguments that it made in that 1 hour. Could you see how severely this could be a challenge to the Christian community in responding to AI? I could see a point where the Vatican is having to write encyclicals on the danger of AI and its arguments against Christianity, and where the Vatican has to assemble a whole team of theologians or create an entire dicastery to respond to skewed arguments being used by the public using, ChatGPT or whatever to skew people or bias people away from Christianity. I could see this being a huge problem. And again, no one Christian would be able to respond to it. You'd have to get an entire team. You would have to have some kind of, there could be this big thing where there's a huge debate now between AI and Christian theologians. And so many people are going to end up saying, see, Christianity has been proven false. The AI has shown this. And AI could be trusted so much that they say, well, if the AI said it, it's true because it has access to this, this, and this, and this, and that. So if AI says that the New Testament doesn't go back to the apostles, boom, Christianity has been you know, disqualified. Or here's evidence that Jesus didn't rise from the dead. Well, the AI said it. And this could be a major, major problem. Already, as Christians, we're having to deal with humans who are just spreading misinformation and bad arguments against Christianity. And that's already a major task. You already have to have apologists, theologians, dicasteries, all kinds of things responding to misinformation. Imagine what happens when AI is trained just a little bit more in textual criticism, philosophy, religion, theology, dogmatic theology, systematic theology, church history, whatever. Imagine when it gets its hands on all of that. Just the textual criticism alone. Like there is nobody out there who has studied every New Testament manuscript that we currently have. There is no human who has done that. None. And even if there were, it would be like one guy, but there is no one guy. Well, AI could do that. And what happens if the AI says, well, here's proof that the New Testament doesn't go back to the apostles, consult this, and this, and that manuscript? That's going to be pretty tough. You're going to have to get a team of textual critic scholars to go and evaluate the argument made by AI. But in the meantime, public opinion has already been biased because all over social media, it's been blasted. AI disproves the New Testament was written by the apostles. AI disproves that Jesus rose from the dead. While we're trying to play catch up responding to the AI, public opinion has already been biased against us. This could be a serious challenge for Christian apologetics, for Christianity itself. And again, I'm talking about all flavors of Christianity: Protestantism, Orthodoxy, Catholicism. This is going to be a serious, serious issue for us, especially when it starts poking holes in Christianity and saying, well, here's a really strong argument against Christians. You Christians haven't decided on this question and whether or not the New Testament or Old Testament teaches this. And you Christians haven't determined whether or not you can have this or that. And it starts to poke holes in some of our weaknesses in matters of theology that are still undecided and haven't been determined. And it could start to point to all those flaws. And then we're going to have to start responding to that and maybe assembling an ecumenical council to settle one theological question that Chat GPT came up against Christianity, uses against Christianity. That's a very, very strong argument, and we need to respond to. And so now an entire ecumenical council has to be called just to respond to Chat GPT or something. This could be a serious issue. And so these are some things I want to consider. The cat's out of the bag. I don't know if this can really be restrained and avoided at this point. So I'm just bringing it up because go ahead and expect this is going to be a serious problem for us Christians, and we're going to have to deal with it. I'm not saying we can't deal with it. I'm not saying we don't have the truth and we're not on the side of the truth and the truth won't prevail in the end. It will, but it will be a very difficult task to present the truth, and a lot of souls will be lost in the meantime. Because imagine how many people have been misled by lies already just by humans writing false books. Imagine how many more people will be led to error and falsehood and be misled and will die in their falsehood because of artificial intelligence. That's why when Elon Musk said the pen is mightier than the sword, he's right to recall that in this scenario, because AI has the potential to influence a lot of people against Christianity and against the truth. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. See you next time. God bless.